Things first, we welcome in Ray Lewis. Ray, by our count, we are 18 days away from the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Countdown.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I get to join a great man.
You see that? He changed it. He know now.
Yeah.
He didn't talk to him. Yeah. NFL done called him. Hall of Fame got
What's
that number.
over there?
Hey, where you gonna be the night before? Chances are.
If I may, can I tell you a quick story? Because I know you're a
please.
busy guy, so you probably can't watch this show each and every day. We were talking about how the Hall of Fame process works. And Chris talked about how each player has their own presenter and that it's the beat writer for this newspaper in town. Chris, how are they going to present Ray Lewis?
Ray Lewis, linebacker, Baltimore Ravens. Sit on down. Let's debate some of these other guys.
Next.
You know,
He said that's what they did with Dan Marino.
Yes.
And that's what they're going to do.
A testament to you and
Save
your
some
resume,
time for the
Ray.
other argument. Sit down.
You are great.
All right, let's move on.
Looking forward to it, bro.
Ray is blushing. Two teams coming off emotional wins last week set to face off for all the NFC marbles, Vikings and Eagles. Despite this game being in Philadelphia, the Vikings are the favorites here. Nothing new for Philly. This team getting used to being underdogs this postseason. They're actually encouraging fans to bring dog masks to the game. Underdogs.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
All right.
Actually
100%
sold over
true.
500 masks on Amazon.
Yeah, they sold
out.
out on Amazon. They were $19. Now they're selling for $40.
Wow.
Just FYI markup. Ray, you buying the Vikings as road favorites in this one?
Man, I tell you what, when you look at both of these teams, front seven-wise, I know we always look at the shiny pieces, right? The quarterback positions, the wide receiver positions. But when you think about the front sevens on both sides of the football, I am really excited to see how Minnesota's front seven deal with the run game of LeGarrette Blount and IG.
Yeah.
And then vice versa on the other side. Because when you see how they're built, one of the things that – now, I will say this. Secondary-wise, I give a little bit of a nod to Minnesota. Because Rhodes is probably one of the most dominant corners in the game, just big, physical, and plays the game at a certain level. Nick Foles, Keenum, who pulls that one out? I've always liked the Vikings for a long time coming into this season because of the way they play. You talk about Hendricks and the way they play at the linebacker position. These young boys are running to the football, and everything up front is just getting ate up. So they are flying to the football. So when you say, can Nick Foles make enough plays to beat this defense? Can Case Keenum make enough plays against Philly defense? I think he can.
Can you even believe we're talking about Case Keenum and Nick Foles in the championship game?
I do. Let me tell you why. We focus a lot of times going into playoffs game, going into the seasons, the biggest thing we always talk about, the quarterback position, the quarterback position. But nobody talks about the number one and number two defenses that's still playing right now in the championship games, right? And so when you think about the number two defense, the number three defense, the Jaguars, number two, number one defense, you're talking about defensive teams that's late in the season.
This weekend, I thought of you because I was like, man, I don't know if there's ever been a divisional weekend that Ray Lewis probably enjoyed watching
Every
more.
bit of it.
Because you had three matchups where there was clearly one team had the better quarterback, and the other team had the better defense.
100%.
And all three of those matchups, the better defense won. I'm not including the Pats-Titans because the Pats probably had the better quarterback and the better defense.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the defensive, the first, second-ranked defenses. Of the top 5 scoring defenses in football, here's who's left. 1, 2, 3, and 5.
100%.
Of all 4 of the teams left are in the top 5 scoring defenses in football this week. And even though the Jags-Steelers game didn't go as such, the better defense won every single game, which is something you're right. We always talk about quarterback, and if we're not talking about quarterback, we tend to talk about coach, or we talk about a wide receiver. But this weekend, it was about punch-you-in-the-mouth defenses. And in the Vikings, they overcame a no-doubt Hall of Famer in Drew Brees.
No doubt. Listen. You get to the end of that game, right? And I say to myself, this is not going to end well. And I'm sitting in my sister's house, and I'm saying, this is not going to end well. One of the things, Chris, that oh, my gosh, I watch TV. There is so much individual play, right? So everybody puts that one play on Williams, right, at the end of the game. If that's any defense that I've ever played on, there's a full conversation going on before the snap of that ball. There's 10 seconds on the clock. Get your behind back to the 20-yard line. There's nothing else we can do. When that ball drops in the end zone, 3 people wherever the ball at. Tackle the ball, game over, we win the football game. None of that happens. For one man to be left back there to make that play, which was, I don't even know what he was thinking. But for that play to be made like that, you start to see what defenses look like, right? And so I gave this analogy yesterday. Great defenses play on one string. It's a string. It's just like tying your shoe, right? When you need to tighten it up, everybody got to tighten up together. And when you go on that string, that's what makes Minnesota so dominant. That's what makes Philly so dominant. And what makes Jacksonville so dominant. Jacksonville gave up 8 plays in that game. And on the 8 plays they gave up, the string was broken. Somebody wanted to be an individual on that play. I can show you runs where everything fit perfectly, but one guy decided to do something differently. I can show you on pass plays where somebody showed it and said, "Oh, this is the coverage." That's an absolute lie. It was a breakdown in coverage by one guy who said, "I'm just going to be me." And so you ask yourself, even when you transition to the New England Patriots and Jacksonville Jaguars, Jacksonville's defense fits better against New England than they did against Pittsburgh. Because Pittsburgh just got enough weapons everywhere across the board. But I'm telling you, man, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one.
Now, Ray, question for you. How do you respond after the digs, after the Minneapolis miracle? And you would be the perfect person because after the Mountain High miracle, after Flacco dropped that bomb on Baltimore, yes, and Raheem Moore, you know, yet to be seen. You talked about yesterday, does the guy recover? Right. Raheem Moore, he didn't recover from the. Now, as a team, emotionally. Now, they were at home. You guys were on the road, had to get on a flight. How do you capture the good parts of that and be able to move on to the next week? Because you still got a couple more games to win to be Super Bowl champs.
You got a couple more games to win, but what you start to see is sometimes even being good, you need a little luck, too. Right? And I can go back to both Super Bowls. I can go back to we played in Oakland, and one of the biggest plays of the game, we only needed one play. Shannon Sharp, 97 yards.
Yes, sir.
Was one play. Backed up.
Yep, hit him down the middle.
All odds against you. We're playing with Trent Dilfer. We don't have a chance to win in Oakland, and we get one play. We go to Denver, 2012. Everything that counted us out. Already, last game of your retirement. Jacoby Jones. It's just that one magical run. And when you start to see those magical moments happen, you have to ask yourself, is this our year? And if you're Minnesota, you're good enough to go win a game. But when you get things like that to happen, then you almost confirm this is our year.
Chris was in the locker room after the game, and one of the things he pointed out that he was so impressed by is Mike Zimmer let him have like a minute to bask in it, celebrate, and then started going through the schedule for the next day. Practice squad guys, here's when you're showing up.
8:30. The guys who didn't play in the game, 9 o'clock lift. Guys who are injured, I want you in the building as soon as possible.
So the reason I bring it up is people are, like the one-to-one comparison they're showing is the Jacoby Jones, Raheem Moore play.
Yeah.
Do you remember what was John Harbaugh like in the locker room after? Was it similar? What was the mentality, or maybe different because you guys were such a veteran team? If you could take us there.
Yeah, it was kind of different because I was walking up and down the sideline, and before we came out of halftime, one of the things I said, I called John and I said, "John, I need the team to come together." And he was like, "Okay, let's come together." And the same ring that's around my neck, we started reciting Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed shall prosper, right? And as we're reciting that, we come out, and the guy goes 99 yards on the first kickoff return.
Holiday,
yeah, and I'm sitting there saying, look, no weapon, you got to stick to the formula. But what started to happen was, man, we really started to believe. We really started to believe going forward, and what would it look like? And we just kept saying, just give us one play. Give us one play. Just keep us in the game. And I think when you see moments that we saw this weekend, it starts to carry with you, man. And I'm telling you, this weekend is going to be exciting for a couple of reasons. The favorites, whoever you think it is, it won't be. I'm just telling you. And that's what I've been saying this entire playoffs.
Based on the matchup.
But based off the matchup. Because it's not your typical style of football, right? I'm more excited, no jive, to see Tom Brady deal with Jacksonville's defense. Why? There's not a bunch of weapons down the field, and the way that they play defense, Now, he will exploit certain weaknesses.
That we're going to do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
hold on.
gotcha.
that's
'Cause, you know,
exactly what
I
we're
was about to
talking
go there.
about.
guys. You know, I'm ready.
I know, I see that.
Fired up.
Fired up. I love it, Ray. All right, stick around. We're going to talk about just that. Can the Jags defense slow down Tom Brady and the Patriots? Next on First Things First.
Man, get a drink.